So, I was fortunate enough to spend last week at Red Bull Formation. The majority of the time, I was helping Hannah Bergman and Casey Brown on their entrance drop, but on our rest day, I had the opportunity to sit down with Chelsea Kimball. Now, you probably know her by her Instagram handle, Chelsea SendsIt, and in our conversation, I got to talk with her about how she got into biking, her gravitation towards freeride mountain biking, and how she sees her career in freeride, as well as women's freeride in general, progressing. Now, you'll hear the backstory in our conversation, but I met Chelsea a while ago. In that time, I've been extremely impressed, blown away even by her drive and her resolve to keep pushing herself and the perception of what women can do on a bike. Now, this formation was no exception to that at all. To me, Chelsea epitomizes the idea of a self-made athlete, and she continues to forge her own path and create her own opportunities, and it seems have a whole lot of fun along the way. Before we get into it, I'd like to say that formation, the energy it brings to mountain biking, and the empowerment it creates for women in this sport is one of the most exciting things I've ever had the opportunity to be a part of, and I really can't wait to see where it goes from here. If you haven't already, check it out. There's tons of media out there on the internet. The things these women are doing on their bikes are totally bonkers. So, without further ado, this is Chelsea SendsIt Kimball, and this is MTB in Review. So, Chelsea Kimball.
That's me.
How you doing?
Pretty good.
We are out here in Laverkin.
Herkin.
Excuse
Not
me.
hurricane. Herkin.
Utah. Next to Laverkin, and what's the third one?
Virgin.
Virgin, Laverkin, and Herkin.
Or if you're
Maybe
listening
not
to the
another.
radio, there's Fillmore Virgin Beaver.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We'll come back to that later, and you can explain that to me. You have been out here quite a bit. You've ridden out here a ton, and you're back, but you're kind of nomadic, is that right?
Yeah, I've been living in a van way too long. And for the past, maybe this is the fifth year, 2017 to 18 was my first winter living here. And I've come back every winter since.
Sweet. And then in that time, what's that, 4 years now, 5 years, things have kind of changed a lot for you, haven't they?
Definitely. Things have changed a ton.
So, well, what are we here for right now?
Right now is Red Bull Formation.
2022, which is the third year.
The third year,
that it's been done. 2019 was the first year, I believe.
Yep.
And then 2020 was skipped because COVID started.
Mm-hmm.
Then 2021, and now we're back.
Yep.
And it's been getting bigger and better and cooler every year. You've been here for all 3 years, is that right?
No, I wasn't. I was like around that first year, but I wasn't involved with the event at all.
Mm-hmm. And then was it connections? How did you come to be involved?
I messaged Katie a whole bunch.
Yeah.
Yep. Just kept asking her if I could be a part of it.
Just saying, hey.
Yeah. Who knows what made her finally approve?
Yeah. No, I mean, I bet she's glad she did. It's an event that, yeah, it seems to me anyways, from an outside perspective, that you're sort of a big part of it, and you've been really helping push what the event is. And like, you know, we've chatted the last few days about, you think, you know, there's room for even bigger and better things to come out of it. Does it feel like, yeah, like I said, from an outside perspective, it seems to have done a lot in regards to bringing more women into the sport, and which is freeride mountain biking. What would you say from your perspective? What does that all look like to you?
So I guess the first thing that pops into my mind is like when I tell people that I live out here in the winter, some people that like I don't already know are like, oh, are you part of that like women's rampage thing? And personally, I hate when they say that, because rampage is a competition, and it's a very specific thing. Like the best free riders in the world are competing for that that spot as the best free rider in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, Red Bull Formation doesn't have anything to do with that kind of, it's not that kind of event.
Yeah.
It's in Virgin, Utah, and in that respect, it's the same as Rampage, and what we're riding is similar. I mean, we're riding old Rampage lines, really.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not a competition.
Yeah.
And to me, Rampage wouldn't be what it is if it wasn't a competition.
Yeah.
And so that's what pops into my mind first. That being said, like, Red Bull Formation has definitely put us riding out here in front of a lot more people than it was before. Like, me just coming out here and posting on my Instagram is only going to reach so many people.
Sure.
Whereas like Red Bull posting on their Instagram and Red Bull TV and whatnot is in front of a much, much larger audience. And that's pretty awesome.
Totally. Well, so I guess you explained what it isn't to you, and it isn't Rampage, and it's not a competition. What would you see it as, or how would you kind of define it? Yeah.
I think it's not up to me to define. Katie's definitely defined it as a progression session.
Yeah.
And it's not, I guess to me, it's not only progression for the riding. It's also progression for women to progress their careers and get more exposure. So it's not only about the riding.
Yeah.
It's progressing in other ways. And yeah, like I feel like that's totally what it's about. We're all out here. We're all like the non-competition aspect is awesome in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Like we're not afraid to help each other. I mean, maybe some of the girls feel like some sort of underlying competition towards each other.
And
just
maybe like internal
yeah,
pressure.
Definitely.
To perform at their highest level. Since I've been here, the enthusiasm and the stoke that I've seen amongst all the riders and all the diggers that they've brought with them to like push it and push themselves and push each other is really, really cool to watch. What I was going to say though is even yesterday when we were walking down the hill and there was the two medics there, I heard one of them say like, man, like kind of sucky to have a mountain bike contest with like without even any judges. And I just, at the time I was like, no, it makes it even better. They were talking amongst themselves, but I just yelled, I was like, no, it's even cooler. Everybody can ride everything and like, it's more fun this way. I wish I was like wittier and snarkier with my comebacks to like drive home the point a bit better. But, cause yeah, I think as far as like the vision that Katie has had for this, it's been highly successful. And I think, you know, talking with people, it seems like it's gotten more refined and better every year in terms of accomplishing what I see as her wanting to accomplish, which is like foster women in free ride. And I think she's doing a great job at that. Okay, so you've been here for 2 years. I imagine many people would probably know you by your Instagram handle, Chelsea SendsIt. I think I started seeing, you know, like you do a backflip on a BMX bike, I think out here in Virgin. Like,
yep, my first backflip to dirt.
back in like 2017 or something. I actually met you in 2018, which I'll come back to because that's kind of a funny story. But I'm curious how you kind of got into mountain biking and how you got into this pretty niche type of riding.
Well, into mountain biking, I got into mountain biking when I was like 24. It was like 2014, I think. And it was all because of my friend CJ that's here digging for me now.
Oh, yeah.
She got a job at a bike shop in Big Bear, California. And then later I went to live there as well in that same area. And she was like, she started mountain biking because she works at a bike shop in a mountain town. And she was like, oh, you have to try that. At that point, I was like really into rock climbing. That's all I wanted to do, like just push myself in climbing.
Was that, sorry to interrupt, like sport climbing or bouldering or trad or?
At that point, it was mostly sport climbing, but that's what started to get me into trad because Big Bear is like an hour and a half or 2 hour drive away from Joshua Tree. And that's where I learned to lead climb for trad climbing.
Hell yeah.
So it was kind of the start of me getting into trad climbing. But in Big Bear's Holcomb Valley, which is an epic sport climbing spot. It's nothing super tall, but the rock is awesome.
Yeah, cool.
But yeah, so I was mostly a climber, but she finally got me to go on a ride. She got a new bike and she let me ride her old bike, and we pedaled up, and like the pedaling up was terrible, of course.
Always.
But then the way down was really awesome.
Sure.
So luckily she gave me her old bike, like an old hardtail Trek.
What a good friend.
Yep.
And so did you have cycling experience of any kind, like BMX or just growing up riding bikes, I imagine?
Growing up, I rode, like, I've learned to ride bikes, but
Sure.
It was just like down the street.
As a kid, yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
And then I guess that right before I moved to Big Bear, I actually did, I decided I wanted to ride like from San Francisco down to San Diego.
Cool.
Like on the Pacific Crest Highway and Pacific Coast Highway. And yeah, so I found a bike beside a dumpster in Joshua Tree, and then went to like one of the community repurposing bike shops in San Francisco, like rebuilt what needed to be rebuilt because the wheel had been run over. And rode down the coast. It took me like 2 weeks or something.
Yeah.
But that was like the most bike experience I had.
That's a cool trip.
At least it made my legs really strong
Yeah,
for
there
like
you go.
before I learned that mountain biking was a thing.
To set the stage.
Yep.
Was it the chicken or was the finding the bike the impetus to do that trip, or had you already been kind of thinking about that trip and then you found the bike?
I don't remember.
That's a sort of meaningless detail. I was just
It
curious.
may be a combination of the two. I may have kind of thought of it, and I didn't have a bike. And we were driving together in one vehicle with our other friend up to Northern California. But we had stopped in Joshua Tree for my birthday, really, and found that bike beside the dumpster. And then that's when CJ needed to get down to Big Bear from San Francisco.
Cool.
And I didn't want to drive with her, and I had the bike. So I'm like, it's perfect. I'll just ride down there.
That's rad. That's a cool trip.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
Well, if you ever have a memoir, I'd love to hear more about that trip. And you said that was like a 2014-ish, like sort of entrance into...
that bike trip was like January of 2013.
Okay, and then into mountain biking the next year.
Yeah.
And so you've kind of had like a sort of like a skyrocketing entrance into the sport, really. Like,
I feel like I'm sliding into it at the perfect time.
Yeah.
Like women are getting more exposure. There's starting to be more of us, more competitions, more other events that we can be involved in. So I feel like I have pretty good timing. I'm getting lucky.
Cool. No, I mean that's a big part of life is some luck, and you're making the most of it. It seems like.
Trying.
Well, so I actually met you. I'll take it back to when I met you in 2018. I live in Bellingham, Washington, and you were spending some time out there. At this kind of local shuttle zone, and I went out there and was riding all day, and you were kind of like in the mix, and my pedal fell off. It's the spindle, and I was like mulling around asking people if they had a spare set of pedals, and you were like, "Yeah, I got a set of pedals. Like, you can borrow it for sure," and that was awesome. And it was a great day, as I remember. And so you at that time were like posting a lot of cool shit on your Instagram, like that backflip, your first backflip to dirt and stuff. And this particular zone, Bellingham has a lot of like no films, like there's some like contention with the land use and, you know, sort of like secret trails and stuff like that. And that was just the group of people that I was with was like, that was like a big part of the mentality. And I'm like must protect the riding zones. And I saw a sick video of you hitting like a sick drop, and I wrote you like an Instagram message the next day or something, and I was like, you know, I had done this to a couple people like, hey, like trying to be sort of respectful and present both arguments, but at the end of the day, like essentially being like kind of like snooty local, like, hey, look, this is a contentious area, like try not to post video, and well, I'll let you speak for yourself, but you're like, fine, deleted, whatever, fuck you, not fuck you, but I'm like, oh no, like, I wasn't trying to be an asshole, I was being a bit of an asshole, and so I've like tried to adjust my like perspective of like, you know, I guess you might even call it like gatekeeping in some ways, because at the end of the day, like mountain biking is a sport I love, and I love sharing it, and being snooty to people is not a way that I want to be. But yeah, like, I guess maybe because I live in Bellingham and you spent time in Bellingham, I'd be curious to hear your perspective of like that whole Bellingham experience and, you know, including my being a bit of an asshole and whatnot. Yeah, what did you think of Bellingham? Because you've been out there maybe once or twice since then, but not for any extended period.
Yeah, not for an extended period of time. That particular thing, I remember like before we went on that ride, people were like, oh yeah, this trail's like not super well known. And then I totally forgot about that when I posted it. And then you said that, and I'm pretty sure I just went like, oh crap. Because I totally understand, like the way that our trails are here in the United States, like not all trails are necessarily legal or illegal. There's always, maybe not always, but there's some gray area that like you don't want to lose the awesome trails that you have. And I fully understand that and support that. I never thought that you were being a jerk or anything. I totally understood.
It's an interesting, like, weird line to ride, though.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know, and I definitely struggle with that, you know, and as more people get into the sport, which I think is great, and, like, as all sorts of people get into the sport, which is great, it's like, I, like, have to tell myself, like, okay, like, things are fine. Like, you lose one trail because the landowner gets pissed at mountain bikers, and that's fine. Like, it was... that you weren't supposed to be there in the first place anyway, and you can always go build more trail, and it really doesn't, at the end of the day, matter at all. I hope I've become a little more older and wiser, definitely older, maybe a little wiser since then. But no, it's been cool to like follow your path since then, and I appreciate you loaning me that pedal as well. So you said you spend winters here in Virgin. Is that's been a regular thing for you and will continue, I imagine. Where do you spend the rest of your time?
It's always something different in the summer. That year, 2018, 17, that summer of 2018, I was actually living just outside of Bellingham for the summer, just at a spot that had awesome trails. And yeah, I loved it. Yeah. That year it was awesome. I worked at like I just washed dishes at a little Italian restaurant.
Oh yeah.
And I could ride all day and try to just like hang out at the bottom of trails and hop on other people's shuttle cars. Perfect. And then coast down to the restaurant at the end of the day and wash some dishes, have a nice meal at the end of the night. It was perfect. You don't need much money if you don't go anywhere.
Yeah, no, that sounds great.
Yeah, then I would go, that summer was awesome racing the Northwest Cup series. Those downhill races are so much fun. Go lots of awesome different resorts or whatnot. So yeah, that year was Bellingham. The next year... what did I do the next summer?
Which would have been 2019, I think.
That's the summer that I went to Sugar Showdown and Big White. That was the first slopestyle at Big White that they had. And then that was the first Crankworks. That was the first Crankworks speed and style for women at Whistler that year. So that winter I must have worked enough that I didn't have to work in the summer. And then, yeah, 2020, of course.
Yeah.
COVID.
Threw a wrench and everything.
Yeah.
Now, at this point, are you still working odd jobs or are you riding full time?
This year is the first year I've been able to ride full time.
Cool. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's rad.
It is pretty cool.
What companies are enabling you to do that?
I think Specialized is definitely like
the big one.
Yeah, they're huge. They're awesome to work with. Like I have all sorts of contacts there that if I need something,
get it out to you.
Yeah, they can get it out to me. And they have like, I'm not just saying this because they're my sponsor, but I'm pretty sure that they have the best bikes right now out of all the companies. Like, look, Bruni's winning all the World Cups. Like, they got some nice bikes. I'm just saying.
All right. No, I agree. They make good shit. And, yeah, they make fun bikes for sure.
But like Pit Viper helps me out, reverse components, and I'm running TRP brakes. Pretty awesome. But yeah, like it's feel really lucky with companies that are supporting me.
Doing the whole bike thing. That's awesome.
We talked about like up in Bellingham how the trails are in part of a gray area. And it's kind of interesting because this particular area is growing a massive amount.
Yeah,
I don't know if,
we're sitting here next to a whole bunch of new construction. I think we caught them on their lunch break, so there's not a bunch of noise. But
yeah, and it's like it is really exploding, and Virgin, where like Rampage is, like is having a massive amount of resorts and everything going in, and like Virgin is kind of a gray area, like some of the trails in Bellingham.
Yeah.
And just in the amount of time that I've been coming here since that winter of 2017 to 18, there is a lot more free riders coming out here and riding and building new stuff. And that is awesome. But there's also another side to it that as the area grows, like more people come here and more people that aren't mountain bikers come here and like see all this new building, and it's not necessarily on a trail. And I think it's one conversation that needs to be thought about. There's already some land issues, land ownership issues in St. George, and like the different land owning organizations don't want like trail braiding and like different lines on a trail, and it may get certain trails shut down. And I've definitely talked to people that have been involved in meetings, and it has come up about like all the free ride stuff in Virgin, and it'd be cool to start. I haven't began the process, but I'd really like to start like a not for profit to start trying to raise funds for any sort of hurdles we may have in the long run to keep Virgin open to free ride. Because this place is unique in the entire world. There's nowhere else that has the same terrain as Virgin. And if we lost that, it would be catastrophic.
Yeah, agreed. No, it's an ongoing question and discussion everywhere. And it's like a hard, a lot of times I feel like the people who should be investing effort and time and money into these discussions sometimes aren't, and I see that as like the big bike companies who are selling the bikes to the people to go do the stuff. I think instead of like putting the onus of that on like individual riders, I wish there was a bit more input from these large companies that are making the money from us buying the stuff.
That would be awesome.
And I hope you find the resources to make this fund or this advocacy association or whatever it ends up looking like, because that's the kind of stuff that we need to keep riding open for everyone, and to be able to get more people into the sport in a sustainable way, because it's a cool thing. It seems like it's changed your life to a pretty large extent.
Definitely.
Yeah, I guess did you ever? I mean, you said you were pretty into climbing. Did you see being a professional athlete as a potential outlet for you?
Oh, not at all. Like, I think maybe after, back then I was just like, I want to work as hard as I can for the shortest amount of time, so I have time to play as much as possible.
Yeah, sure.
And I've been able to do that pretty well between like ski instructing and learning bookkeeping and then learning tree work. Like I've always like figured out how I can learn trades that are easy to get jobs just about anywhere. So it's allowed me to travel to certain places, do what I need to do, and then have my time to do my activities. And then like that year, 2017 was the first year I was like, I'm gonna race this season. It was my first year upgrading to the professional category for USAC rather than Cat 1. And I went and raced out east. And I think that was like, I think I'll just keep doing this. I've never had any intentions in becoming a professional athlete or whatever. I've just always wanted to ride my bike and do it more in more places.
Oh, that's cool. I mean, and it like that comes with sacrifices, I imagine, like that you could speak to better than I, but you've lived in, do you still live essentially full-time in your van? Is that right? And how long have you been living in your van?
11 years.
Dang. I imagine you're fully comfortable with that. Obviously, you've been doing it for 11 years now. You've got all your routines.
I've definitely learned how I personally like to do things. I don't know how many people would be willing to do it in the way that I do it, but because I have a very small van and I don't have any amenities in the van.
Yeah.
I just have my space for bikes and my bed, and that makes me happy.
Works for
but
you.
I know for a lot of people it's not quite enough.
Yeah.
But I'm happier when I'm in like more difficult or uncomfortable situations, I think. When I'm comfortable, I feel like I get lazy and so I guess it gives me motivation if I don't have any space to hang out in my van. Like I'm gonna go outside and then I'll start doing something. I like it.
Yeah, it's obviously gotten you into where you want to be right now anyways. Do you think much about where you're going? I know I personally don't. I kind of like let things take, basically my sort of life like MO is like basically like be nice to people, do the things that you enjoy, and like as long as they're not hurting other people, and try and say like yes to opportunities that you think are cool, and so far that's gotten me like I feel very fortunate in where I've wound up, and I don't have like really a 5-year goal or anything, and I never have. Do you think about that kind of stuff at all? Or?
So I have a little bit. Like, I'm honestly, this year being my first year getting paid as a professional athlete, I'm making more money than I've made each year for like the past 10 years.
Great.
I've worked so very little that I'd be lucky if I made like $8,000 in a year.
Wow.
And I've been able to live off of that, like with plenty of happiness and whatnot. So like, I think making a little bit more this year, I've like my friends and my dad and everybody have been like, oh, you could start thinking about like how to invest or like, I don't know, invest in property or whatever. So I've thought about it. I don't think I would have enough money to do anything big, but I've definitely thought about what I could do if I had enough money saved up. And then, yeah, I've one like for like not super far down the road, but say a few years from now, like I'm not able to be a professional athlete and like make a living from it. I feel like I have enough skills that I can go back to. I love doing tree work, and that's easy to get back into. I know both sides of the business part of it. Like I could start my own business if I wanted. So I feel like I have enough to fall back on that I could still make a good living doing something else. But for like the short-term future, I just want to use like the opportunities that I'm getting as much as possible. Like try to go to all the events, like try to go to all the countries. I just want to like do as much as I can because I feel really lucky to be in my situation.
Yeah. Well, maybe throw into some far off down the road plan a memoir, because I know I would probably enjoy it. Not probably. I know I would enjoy reading that. But yeah, I think like, I've met 30 very cool people that are involved in our sport, and I'm sure you're meeting 30 plus people every time you go to a new event. And it sounds like you've got cool ideas, inside the mountain biking arena. Like we talked about your sort of vision for a bit of an advocacy association or whatever it may be here in Virgin. And I suspect that you'll find yourself coming up with like things that you want to pursue that you're able to pursue through the connections that you've made and the skill sets that you have and stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, maybe like me, I tend not to worry about the future because I've been very fortunate, and I know lots of people that I care about and care about me, and and it seems like you've developed a really cool net of or community of people.
Definitely.
That will probably enable that for you too. Formation, how are you feeling about your line?
Pretty good. I didn't go as I didn't have any specific goal like I did last year to like build my own feature.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure my diggers would kill me if I wanted to do that again because it is it's probably like double the work.
Yeah.
I'm feeling a lot less tired this year just because last year it was like go as hard as you can all day, every single day.
Like if we're gonna make this happen, we can't
Yeah.
stop.
This year we've been like talking and like looking around a little bit more. We've been working hard, but
Yeah.
it's not as like 110% the whole time.
And also not 100 degrees out too,
Yeah.
which is
It
amazing.
makes a big difference. But yeah, so we've rebuilt the like 2 main drops of my line, and the rest of it is pretty, like we're sharing part of the line with Robin, Haz, and Sam. And like
And that's
most
Robin Gomez,
Yep.
has Harriet Smith, and Sam Soriano.
Yep.
Sweet.
And so like the whole upper part didn't really need anything. It's kind of just along the ridge, and then there's a right hand hip, and then just like some skitter stuff. That's where I break off from them. But yeah, tomorrow I'm hoping to work with Robin and Harriet on the drop into the step up, because it's like it's been there a long time, and the landing has always been really harsh. Every person that I've seen do it has only done it once, because it's just not fun.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can make it to where it's like fun and everybody wants to hit it.
Cool.
So that's on the agenda for tomorrow. We're gonna make the top of one of my landings a tiny bit bigger, just a tiny bit more safe.
Yep.
And then after that, like we can kind of relax more.
Cool.
So I'm feeling pretty good overall about the line.
Like
Yeah.
excited to ride it.
Not excited to ride that like upper drop of my 2 drops.
Yeah.
But the rest of it, I think it'll be super fun.
You were telling me it's funky. It's a zesty maneuver.
It's really steep, and really like you got to go on this like 3-4 foot wide goat trail.
Yeah.
15 feet past the bottom of the landing. So it's like
Gotcha.
I have to be on point, and I will be.
Yeah.
Like
no,
it'll go fine.
You got it.
But it's like it's
For
definitely that one is the feature that's on my mind.
Okay.
Definitely.
Well, you're good at pushing yourself, and I think you do it like calmly and intelligently and with intention. So I look forward to seeing it. I don't know if I'll be able to get around to I probably won't be able to put this out before formation happens. So we will have seen you do it and crushed it. Anyways, I'm looking forward to seeing all that.
Thanks.
Thanks for sitting down with me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, good times.
Cheers.
Yo!